Alright, now we got the room that is almost blacked out and we only have our key light. As I can see now, my key light is a little bit too strong, but this is because my camera settings are not perfect yet. Now, how do we decide the camera settings? Well, consider that whenever we put in manual mode, we have three main settings that we need to take care of. First one is ISO, then we got aperture, and then we got shutter speed. So whenever you put your camera in auto, then the camera will try to understand exactly what are the best settings based on your scenario, but most of the times it doesn't work whenever we need to have our own studio. Because the thing is, the camera usually will try to calculate these numbers on the overall scene, whereas we need to have these numbers dialed in for our own subject, for our own face, because we want our face and our body to be properly exposed. So we're gonna set the camera to manual mode, and the first thing that we wanna do is try to have the aperture as low as possible, meaning that this depends on the lens that you have. If you have a lens that goes down to 2.8, 1.8, 1.4, then try to have that as an aperture number as a starting point. We can always modify later, but let's start with that. Now my lens goes down to f2.8, so I'm gonna keep 2.8. Now, in order to have a natural motion blur in our videos so that it reflects our eyes whenever we are on a natural environment, we want to keep the shutter speed 1/double your frame rate. In general, everybody uses frame rates that are either 24, 25, or 30. This depends on the country you're in. I'm using currently 25, and I highly suggest you use exactly the same as well. And then we're gonna keep the shutter speed 1/50. If you're using 30 FPS, which means 30 frames per second, then you want to keep the shutter speed at 1/60. Then we have the ISO. Now, because before I was using my camera in a non-controlled environment regarding lighting, I kept my ISO on auto, which means that it would then adapt based on the shutter speed that we have and the aperture to then have an optimal exposure. But now, because I'm in a controlled environment where all the lights are controlled and are fixed, I don't want to have that on auto, but I want to try to have it manual set. So in this case, I'm just going to change it to, instead of auto, I'm going to see whether on 100 ISO, my figure, my persona is actually perfectly lit. And I can see that is okay, but I am a little bit dark. If you are a little bit dark, you have two options. Either you bump up the ISO a little bit, and then I can show you right now that all the image is gonna look a little bit brighter. There you go. Now 250, everything is brighter, but maybe it's a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go down to 200. There you go, and this looks perfectly fine on my face. It's not too bright and it's not too dark. Also, what you can do is that you can keep the ISO at 100, but instead you can increase the power of your light. So in this case, obviously, if you have the light that is a little bit more powerful, you can dial it up a little bit, and then you're gonna have the ISO at a lower number, let's say 100. At the moment, my key light is set at 37% exposure, which means that I'm not even half of the power that I can use. But because it's so close to my face, then I don't need it to have it full power. And this is an entry-level light, which means that it's only 60 watt. You can buy a light that is 120, 200, 250, 300, 500, and even higher for cinema productions. Depending on how far your light is and depending on your lens, then you might need to buy a more powerful light. But in all my studios, everywhere I travel, I just use a 60 watt light. And this is amazing because with the softbox, as you can see, it's super flattering, and my face, the shadows on my face look really good. Now we have adjusted the lighting, but one thing that is missing is the white balance. Usually whenever I go around shooting photos or shooting video outdoor, I most likely leave the white balance as auto, which means that it's gonna try to balance the colors that we have, and then the camera will automatically decide the white balance, which means that whether it's gonna make it cold or whether it's gonna make it warm. So if it's 2700 Kelvin, that is very warm, is if it's like 7000 Kelvin, then it's very cold. And now I want to show you the difference. I have set my white balance not as auto but as daylight. This is because I'm also using my key light as daylight, 5600, 700 or 800 Kelvin. That's the range, but you can keep it at 5700, let's say. Now if I go into white balance, I can see that I can have an auto, and this is gonna modify it a little bit, and then I can have it into sunny, which makes it a tiny bit warmer compared to the auto one. And then we can have also different setups of white balance. And now you can see how it changes. For example, this one is extremely blue, like a cold blue. Then we have different setups. Or you can also go on K, which means that you'll be able to set it manually. As you can see now, we have it 2500 Kelvin, which means that the camera is trying to balance an ideal outdoor scenario that is actually super warm, and therefore to balance it, then the camera is going to make it extremely like cold. So we have these very cold colors. But then if we move it to 9900, we can see that now it made it extremely warm because it's trying to balance an outdoor scenario of 9900 Kelvin, which is extremely cold. And therefore, that's why it's called white balance. So usually I keep it at 5600 so that it matches exactly the color that we have on the key light, or I just use the daylight, which I like it because it makes it a little bit warm compared to the auto one. But again, never use auto whenever you are shooting indoor, you're doing talking head, you're doing live calls, whatever. Just set it manually to daylight and consider that you're gonna have the key light at 5600. Now the next step is to take care of the background. And here the goal is try to have a balanced image. Nothing that is too overwhelming or that is too boring. We need to try to have it in the middle. Usually what I suggest is that you try to have nothing exactly behind you, behind your head, because this will be weird. Right now we have this frame and then I have these spikes that are coming in behind my neck, and this is not what we want. So the first thing that we need to do is that we need to move the frame away. So either you remove it or you try to find a different position in your framing. And in this case, because I can see that here, probably this one will stay right here because I like the plant, and here we have a speaker is okay. But also on this side it's completely empty. So now the image is not balanced at all. We have this one that is very big, is overpowering, and then on this side is completely empty. So it looks like the image is like pulling on one side, right? So what about we try to put the framing on this side instead? Let's see it. This again is a frame that was already inside the room. So it's not something that I had to buy, but I'm just trying to play around with whatever I have. Then while I'm here, I also want to try to have this one a little bit more far back if I can. Okay, I think this is it. And then I want to make sure to try to cover the door as much as possible, because I know that I can still see the door just in the back, but because we have this plant in the front, then we kind of like, you don't see it that much. So I'm okay with it. Then now it looks already so much better because we have a balanced image, but it's a little bit too dark, the background. So we want to try to have a bit more light in the background, and to do so, we can use pocket lights. But before we move to pocket lights, I want to just let you notice that on the frame, I can see that my key light is reflecting, and I want to try to avoid that if possible. And to do so, we just need to find the right angle of the frame. So I'm going to try to move it, see whether we can get rid of it. There you go. Just by moving a little bit the frame, now we got the reflection out of the way. So these are two pocket lights that I bring with me everywhere I go. Once again, this is a tube light, is a Nanlite PowerTube 26C, but you can find it also for any other brand. And this is a very small pocket light, Nanlite Littelite 5C. These are RGB, meaning that I can choose any color that I want, and I want to use these to then try to illuminate the background. Now, the first thing that I want to do is that this area is a little bit dark. So I want to try to put one light right here, and I'm going to use the PowerTube. I don't want to have like colors because I like to have a little bit subtle colors and subtle contrast. So I'm going to use it at 2700 Kelvin. Now consider that the key light that I'm using is actually at 5600 Kelvin. So this simulates the sun color, sunlight. So this one, instead I want to have it more warm light, and I'm going to put it at 2700 Kelvin at about 35% intensity. Then I'm going to try to hide it behind the pillow, just right there. And this looks phenomenal because it illuminates and it gives a bit of a color to the background. And this is something that I really like. Then I can try to add a little bit more light on this plant right here. And something that I bought whenever I arrived to this apartment are some fairy lights. Fairy lights are incredibly cheap, super small. They're powered by batteries, and then I put them around the plant and they just look amazing, usually in videos. You can have Christmas lights, you can have any sort of other lighting, but I think these are super, super good looking, especially because whenever you have a bouquet effect, it creates an amazing vibe. Look at this. Oh my goodness, I love it. I paid this, I think like €2.50 or something in the home store. They're super cheap and you can get them literally anywhere. Now there's one more thing that I wanna show you, and this is about having another light opposite the key light on the other side to then have this side a little bit less dark. This is called rim light. And in order to create an amazing contrast within my frame, I'm gonna try to have it matching the light that I'm using on the frame. So that is 2700 Kelvin. This one is 5600 Kelvin, so the key light. So I wanna try to have this one matching that one. So 2700 Kelvin. So I'm gonna just turn it on. There you go. And then I'm gonna place it just out of frame. I'm placing it on a tripod. Again, this is just a pocket tripod that you can find anywhere, and probably I'm gonna place it right here, see how it looks. There you go. And this looks amazing. As you can see, this all reflection that comes from the back, it looks like that it's coming from that light right here that is illuminating the frame, but actually it's not. It's coming from this pocket light that I just put right here. And I love it. Now we're moving into the last part of our setup, which is audio. Now we set up the camera, we set up the light, we design our background, we got a bunch of lights in the background. The last remaining thing to create amazing content is audio. And remember that this is super important. People are okay with medium visuals, but they are not okay if the sound is really, really bad. So one of the mistakes that usually people do is that they don't really care about audio, and then they use the audio that they pick up from the camera that you're hearing right now. This is absolutely a terrible mistake. There are some very cheap alternatives out there that you can have to have a better result. Now I'm going to show you, let's say, two alternatives. There are the two most common ones, and one is the one that I'm using right now that you can hear, which is a lav mic. This is a wireless microphone that I have attached to the camera so that I can move anywhere around the room and I don't need to stay in one place. This will pick up my voice anywhere I go. Now the problem is that, like in this room, there is a lot of echo, so the audio is not really good. But I had no alternatives if I wanted to move around. But instead, whenever we're doing talking head and we just need to speak in front of the camera, we have the possibility to use, let's say, a podcast mic, which are obviously very famous for podcasts, but they're also great for talking head videos because the audio is going to be amazing. Now I want to show you what I have. This is a Shure MV7 Plus, and I think it's the best quality price mic that you can find that has an XLR output, which means that you can go with professional setups, but it also has a USB-C output, and I usually use all the time USB-C because I need to bring one less cable, and I can link this one to my computer or phone and then directly record on the computer or on your phone as an external audio, and then I'm gonna sync the audio track and the visuals afterwards. Now, one bad thing about this is that I cannot link the USB-C to my camera. It doesn't work, but I need to record the audio separately. But now I bought also this super cheap, I think I paid probably €4 or like 10 euros, I don't even remember, but I bought it in Bali, so it was super cheap, podcast arm. Then I can plug into any sort of table, or sometimes I always plug it also on the light stand that I have in front of me, or maybe on the camera tripod, and then I can use this mic extremely close to my mouth, and as you're gonna hear in a minute, the audio is gonna be amazing. So I'm just gonna place it right here on the table with its own mount. There you go. And now I can have it extremely close to my mouth. Now, one thing that is important to understand is that the audio quality is directly correlated to the distance that you have on your microphone. A microphone that is medium to low quality will sound much better if you're super close than a microphone that is super expensive but you're very far. So the concept is try to speak as close as possible into your microphone. And now I'm going to show you also the difference. I just need to move this little shelf unit a little bit closer so that the mic is extremely close to me. Then I'm gonna take my phone, I'm gonna plug it into my phone right here, and then I can see from the LED right here that is becoming green, which means that it's active. Then I'm gonna go into voice memo, and then I'm gonna start recording. And now it should be picking up the audio directly from the microphone. And probably you already noticed the difference from having the lavalier mic to when I speak instead inside this podcast mic. Now, the difference that I want to show you is that whenever I actually move away from the microphone, the audio sounds so much worse, right? It's not really great. Whenever I'm very close to the microphone, this is an amazing quality audio that is very pleasant to our ears. So this is why it's super important to have the audio, to have the microphone as close as possible to your mouth. This will bring your content and calls to the next level. But there is a problem. What if you want to create content but it's very slow because you need to memorize all the lines in the script, and then the video is so long and you just can't really memorize it and be natural while speaking to camera? Well, there is another accessory that is actually an incredible game changer that's going to make your content creation process so much faster. And this is a teleprompter. Oh, there you go. This is a teleprompter. And if you don't know what it is, it's actually a game changer. But if you know what a teleprompter is, then you might not know about this model, which is 10 times better than any other teleprompter in the market. And I'm not sponsored by these guys. I just bought it because I heard recommendations and it's actually mind-blowing. But what is a teleprompter? Well, a teleprompter is nothing else than a simply tilted glass that allows to reflect text from either an external device, so let's say phone or iPad, or also an external monitor like this one, in a way that you can read it by looking at the glass, but the camera doesn't pick it up from the back. So let's say you're gonna have the camera right here in this hole where the lens goes, then you will be able to look directly inside the lens of your camera while the text is scrolling on top of the lens, so that you can read exactly by looking into the camera, or maybe you can look at your clients directly into their eyes, into the camera, but no one can see that you're actually reading. This is something that all televisions, all like reporters use. They all have teleprompters on top of the camera because they can read information. When I started using this, my life as a content creator absolutely changed because I can now write scripts word by word and I can simply read it. No need to memorize anymore, no need to ruffle around and just saying random words to get to the point. You just write everything you want to say and you read it. It's amazing. Now, the difference between this model and any other model is that this one has an external monitor attached, which means that I can link my computer and then I can project anything I want as it was an extended monitor of my computer. So I can project text, I can put live calls right here, so let's say Google Meets or maybe Zooms and so on and so forth, so that I can look directly into the eyes and I can see my students, I can see my clients directly looking into their eyes in the camera. And this allows me to have not my webcam, but my camera as a webcam, which means that I look absolutely epic because my background looks great, I have an expensive camera and so on and so forth. Usually that's why your video calls might not look really good, because you don't have lighting, you're using a webcam and you probably have a poorly designed background. Now let me show you how it works. I'm just gonna move this one away. There is a cable that goes inside the teleprompter, and then I'm gonna place the teleprompter right on top of the camera. Then what I need to do is that I need to link that cable to my computer. So at the moment, I just have my computer on my laps, but if you have a table in front of you, that would be best. Then I linked the teleprompter to my computer, so now it's powered on. And then from here, you don't see it, but I'm looking directly into my computer like it was a webcam. So let's say I wanted to open a Google Meet and then I link my camera to my computer. I can use my camera as a webcam instead, and then I'm looking directly into my clients or my students' eyes. And this is amazing. And then the game changer part is that again, I can place any script that I want, and then now I can play it. And then as you can see, the text just starts going down and I can look directly into the camera and read. You don't see it. Now, with Cam A, you don't see it, but with Cam B right now, you actually see everything, right? You can see that there is text that is scrolling, and this is super, super cool. So I can literally write word by word, whatever I want, and then I can read it looking directly into the camera, so I don't need to memorize anything anymore. All right, I hope you enjoyed, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Ciao. In this video, I'm gonna show you how I created this super cool setup, again, in a small room. This is a little bit bigger. This is the studio that I have in Italy in my parents' house. This setup is a little bit more pricier than what I've built and what I've shown you before. The reason being is because this studio is in my parents' house in Italy, and therefore I could leave everything right here. I didn't have to buy and then resell or then maybe throw away. So I could spend a little bit more in this studio. But I think it looks really, really good. As we've seen already, this is my logo. So I decided to print it neon. It's a little bit bigger than what I should have gotten because I think now it kind of distracts a bit the viewer from me, but I really, really like it, so I want to leave it right there. And then as you can see here, I have a backlight that is blue. And if you look at me like this, you might think that this blue actually comes from that neon. But the reality is that it doesn't. Boom, there you go. The neon's still on, but now this light is gone. It's because I have a backlight right here, and I'm gonna show it to you everything from behind the scenes so that you can see exactly what's going on. But it's super cool because now I'm simulating that this neon is actually creating this super cool rim on the opposite of my key light, because as you can see, there's a shadow here. The key light is actually illuminating this part, and then in the back, I have the blue light right here, which is a tube light. Then on the other side, I have another tube light with the plant. So in this case, this is doing the yellow color, and it's just behind the plant so that it creates this backlit effect that I really, really like. Then in the back of my head, you can see that there is a computer, which means that you know that I'm somehow into technology and I have my computer in the workflow. And then also you can see some fairy lights right here, and they look amazing because there's a plant coming down and some fairy lights around. These are super cheap, but they look amazing in any studio, especially if you have a low aperture like a f1.2 that I'm using right now on my lens, because this will be blurred as you can see right now. Then I have just a key light, which is exactly the same that I had on the other studios. It's just a small softbox on me coming from 45 degrees, slightly higher than my eyeline. And then why I really like this kind of functional setup is because I have one single stand where I have attached the iPad right here where I can see myself and it works as a monitor. And then also I have another arm for the microphone so that I have one single stand with basically everything. And then I just have another tripod a little bit further away to hold the camera. Then I have the cable that goes into the camera. All right, if you're looking from this angle, then it looks quite messy, right? But then as you can see, right out of frame, we have the microphone, we have the light, we have my iPad to control the camera, and then also we have white walls on both sides that I didn't want to see in the normal framing. So now let's have a look at everything else. So this is the setup, and then here we have the camera. As you can see, is basically at the back of the room. Then there is just a cable that goes inside the microphone, which is right here. So even in this case, I decided to have the camera quite far away. So at the end of the room, then almost in the middle, I'm gonna have myself sitting down right here. And then here we have designed the background. We got a computer, which is my workstation in the middle. We got the plant here on one side, and then on the other side, there is my logo here in blue. Then here we have more plants with some fairy lights that I think look really good. Now here we have windows. Obviously, I have blackout curtains or whatever these are called, so that basically you don't have any lights coming in, but now we can keep them up just like that. There you go. And then here I have another tube light to have the blue as a backlight. Then here we have the iPad, again, that you don't see in the frame. We've got the microphone with an arm that goes on the bigger tripod that holds also the light. Now, talking about the microphone, this is again a Manfrotto Magic Arm, so I can extend it and I can move it, and then I can have a long cable that attaches to the microphone, and then it goes directly into the camera. And this is also something that I really like, so that I can control exactly what I see directly from the iPad. I can modify the camera settings just using the Creators app from Sony, because I have a Sony camera. And then here we just have the softbox, again, that just points 45 degrees, a little bit higher than my eye line. For this tube right here, you could have used anything that is colored. I have these tubes from Nanlite. These are very expensive, but again, you can just use any pocket light that you have, like the one we've seen before, or you can buy them from Amazon in case you want to stay low budget. Then again, here in the background, I decided that I want to have a very gray texture wall. So I painted this, and it was like a special paint or something that creates this texture. And while you don't see it much in camera, it looks really amazing, and even the touch is like super industrial vibe, the kind of dramatic vibes that I really like. And then another thing that I haven't talked about is another light that I have coming up from the desk right there, just to have some backlight of the computer. In the framing, you don't see it much because it's not super powerful, it's not very important because it's just behind myself, but again, it's a great touch to add some more separation between the subject and the background. And that's again the design of this room. Once again, I decided to go for this length. I wanted to use that wall to film, so I decided to paint it. I put a computer, and then I tried to balance the overall framing by using a plant on one side, a logo on the other side, and some more other plants. Again, here, the lights are the most important element. It's always about that. Then to avoid having too many stands, I tried to attach all the arms and all the things that I needed directly to the main tripod, to the main C-stand that is holding my light. And then I have the camera on a different tripod. If I wanted to be even more tidy, I could have attached another arm from this light to then hold the camera. But in that case, I couldn't have used a 50mm because the light would have been too far away from the camera. And therefore, I should have used maybe a 35mm or a wider lens so that I could have placed it just right here in front of me. Once again, it depends a lot on what you like. I really like the long lens, and therefore I want to use the 50mm because it looks just amazing. But then if you want to use a 35, you could have had it much closer. All right, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown, and I'm going to see you in the next video. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can go from this to this in a few easy steps. Let's go. This is funny because it's actually my very first studio that I created when I started content creation. This is where I recorded my very first course, my very first YouTube videos, and my very first TikToks and Reels when I was not outside. I love this background, but unfortunately I don't use it anymore. First of all, because I'm not in Italy that much, and also because it's in my basement, so it's a little bit uncomfortable to have to come downstairs every single time from upstairs where I have my editing room. But what I love about this background is that I built it with a very, very low budget, with things that I only found in my house, and I bought just a couple of things from IKEA that I'm going to show you. Here there was a wardrobe before, but then I removed the wardrobe and then I applied the paper wall that you see right here. It's a white brick texture that I really like. And then we just choose small furniture right here. I put on top some small objects and a broken camera, a couple of plants, a couple of lights, and this is the result. But don't worry, because I'm going to show you everything that I have right here. This background looks super good because of the lighting combination as well. As you can see, I went with the teal and orange kind of effect. So we have an orange bed lamp right here. Then we have a blue, actually small pocket light right there. Then another blue light right there, and another one right here. So you can see that there is basically a triangle of blue light and also a triangle of yellow lights, which is a little bit less prominent. It goes from here to here, we have one here, and then we have another one just right there. And also I added some fairy lights, which is very cheap. You can find them everywhere, but they make a huge difference in your studio. For example, in this plant right here, you see some fairy lights. And then also I have some right there, which are slightly out of screen. As always, as you can see, I have my key light right here, 45 degrees on me. If I want to have it, let's say more even, so light here, light there, I can move it a little bit more in the front, right there, As you can see now, I'm more lit on this side as well, but if I want to make it more dramatic instead, I can move it a little bit more on this side. And there you go, we have completely different effect. I like to have it, as always, in the middle, 45 degrees, so I'm gonna leave it right here, just out of frame so that you don't see it, and that's it. I'm using now a microphone that is wireless so that I don't have to have another microphone right here. But if I had to create YouTube Studio or other courses right here, I would probably put a C-stand with a microphone right there, just out of frame, so that it will be super close to my mouth. One more thing that I really like about this setup is that I have space for a table so that I can keep my iPad or computer or iPhone, wherever, just here very close to me. And now, for example, I have linked the camera that you see right there on my iPad so that I can see exactly what's happening right here, so that I can control the camera directly with the app on the iPad, and it is a massive lifesaver so that I don't have to stand up and then go there. Here I'm using, again, a 50mm lens, so I cannot reach it with my hand. If I had to record maybe and having to be close to my camera, I could have used maybe a 35mm so that I can have the camera a little bit closer to me, but I really like the effect of the 50mm, and so I'm using that one for this video as well. Because here, this room is a little bit bigger, so I have space to move the camera backward and then also be away from the background so that we have a bit more separation. Now, one thing to notice here first is the symmetry. While the elements on the furniture are different, we have two furniture that are exactly the same on both sides. And then my head is in the middle, in that white space, so that you don't lose focus. Now, you might argue that there is a bit too much going on in the background, and I kind of agree. Maybe we can make it simpler, we can maybe change the color combination, we can have less things going on in the background, and I agree. But I don't know why, but I really like this. So because I have a lens that allows to separate quite a bit from the background, I'm quite happy with this. Now it's time to have a look at all the elements that we have one by one. So starting by these two pieces of furniture, once again, I think I've paid probably 20 euros or 30 euros each. We're extremely cheap. We're on discount on IKEA. And I think this model is still available despite I bought it a few years ago. Then we have here a bed lamp with a yellow light bulb inside. This, I bought it on IKEA as well, and it was super cheap. I can't remember the price, but it was within probably the 30 euros mark for sure. Then here I have a speaker, whatever, just to have something random. I have another plant with fairy lights. Fairy lights are really the best thing you can ever buy. I have some frames, which I didn't even put any photos in it. This is just like the standard, whatever, custom thing that you have when you buy it on IKEA. Super cheap. Then I bought also some fake plants, again, super cheap. There are some glass kind of thing just to make it look pretty, but you can add whatever you want. We have a world here just to symbolize the fact that I love traveling. And then we have some books that I don't even know what they are, but it's just like literally about putting stuff that look good, that maybe you find in your house so that you don't have to spend a lot of money. Even this one, I found it, I think online. It was 10 euros, but I really like it because it's an hashtag, so it represents what I do on social media. Then we have another plant, and there's nothing there because I just use it as a storage, as you don't see it directly in camera. On the other side, we have a very similar story. We have the same piece of furniture. Then we have a plant that is coming down from the furniture, which I really like. Again, I've put some fairy lights on top of it. Then we have, I don't know, this is the Empire State Building, I think, but you don't see it in camera, but I just liked, I think it fits the mood. Then I have a broken camera with the cage, so this camera, unfortunately, it doesn't work anymore, so I just put it there to symbolize what I do because I'm a photographer, I'm a videographer, so we use this as a branding element. Then I have a couple plants in here, we have it symmetrical, but then we have two pieces of glass that are not symmetrical. Then the same thing here, I put some random stuff that I found in the house. Then even here, I have this box right there with an O, and then some bunch of things that I found in the house, a few glasses, another fake plant, and then here I have some souvenir that I bought around the world. And then again, we have the color combination. We have a small pocket light in the background right there. This is a Nightlight 5C that maybe is a little bit too strong, so we can decrease it. This is at 1%, so literally whatever pocket light you buy is gonna work to have it in the background. Then we have, again, fairy lights inside, and then we have another pocket light in the background. That one is a little bit bigger because I finished the pocket ones. I don't have them anymore in Italy. It's a little bit too strong, but it's at 1%, so that's the maximum that I can do. Then I'm using a tube light right here opposite to my key light just to create the backlight that I love in videos. Next thing, I have this white table. Again, this is from IKEA. This is the cheapest table you can find on IKEA, and it's just right there so that I can hold some stuff on the side, and I like to have a table in front of me, and not in many studios I can have a table because there is not enough space. And then I have my key light. This is a Forza 150, but again, any key light would work right here because I started using this studio with an ultra cheap, maybe $30 softbox from Amazon, and it worked perfectly. The biggest problem that I have in this basement, obviously because it's a basement, is extremely short. So this is probably about 2 meters high, and therefore I cannot play around much with the height, but I need to sit all the time, and I cannot do any type of content standing up. But that's pretty much it. Again, the concept here is that I have 2 symmetrical pieces of furniture, and then I have a bunch of objects and random things that I found in the house on top of the shelves. Then if you can, try to have some branding elements like the camera right here and the hashtag right there, so that when people watch you, they understand immediately what you're about. Whether we talk about the color combination, the objects that I put, the pieces of furniture, the table, the inclination of the light, the colors of the lights, the position of the light, this is all up to you. It's all about what you like, and whether you want to modify and use different objects is completely fine. But make sure to have some plants because they look good everywhere, whether you have a black background, dark background, and any sort of background will look good with plants and also with lights. So try to play around with those things. Now, let's say you found the previous setup a little bit too messy and you want to try to make it simpler, or maybe spend less money, or maybe you don't have all the things to put on the furniture and therefore, no, for whatever reason, let's try to make it simpler. We have removed all the 2 furniture with everything, and now we have just a textured background, and this could be already a viable option. Now, if you want to make it slightly better, maybe we can add some lights on the side. So let's try to do that. If I take one tube light just out of frame from one side, and then I put it blue right there, like so, and then maybe I can use another tube light on the other side and maybe make it again yellow. Let's see if it looks good. And that's it. It's already a little bit better than it used to be. You can add any sort of color that you want. Or potentially you can also have the lights, instead of coming from the side, coming from the bottom. So let's try to do that. Just like that. And as you can see, it changed completely, and I think I like this one more. It's a little bit more dynamic because we have basically a gradient coming from blue and yellow to more like the textured background, natural color white that we have. But then let's say I wanna try to add something that is not as messy as it used to be before. Well, let's try using maybe a plant on one side and see how it looks. I can add probably this plant right here, and I can have it on one side or the other. And I think this looks fine. Then if I want, I can add a colored light that goes from inside the plant and pointing up. So let's try to do that. I'm gonna remove this tube light right here, and I'm gonna remove also the other tube light that we have on the other side. Maybe we're gonna use it later. Just like that. And then I'm gonna use another pocket light. Probably we're gonna make it yellow because I think this is gonna look best with the plant. We're gonna place it inside, pointing up. Let's see if I can fit it. There you go. Now let's sit down, let's see how it looks. Yeah, this looks already really, really good. Potentially we can add something on the other side as well because it's a little bit empty, so maybe we can try with the tube light and let's see how it looks. Just like that, let's keep it yellow. Let's see if we like it or not. Yeah, this is already a killer background. Simply using a plant, a light in the plant, and then another light on the other side just to have a little bit of space balance. Then if you want, you can always change the color of either light. So let's try to change this one. Let's maybe put it blue, just like that. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, this is not too bad either. Again, we try to have complementary colors. On one side we have the yellow, kind of warm, and then this side we have the blue. Then potentially we can try also a different combo. So let's put this one at a different color. Let's go with the Joker vibes. So let's have it green and purple. It's gonna be a little bit harsh, but why not? And that's it. It doesn't look too bad either, right? This is not my favorite color combination, but again, it's another option that you have. And as you can see, we transformed the same rune in 3 different ways, or even more, because the color combination that you can use are almost endless. So again, it's all about having fun, trying to design your background using the colors that you prefer and the objects that you have in your house in case you don't have much budget. But I think 2 elements that cannot be missed in any studios are plants and lights. And that's all we have here. 1 light and a plant with another light. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Now let's have a look at a new scenario that might happen quite often in our homes. You have a room that maybe is a basement like this one, but is super messy and you don't have even a single white wall. What do? Well, we might have a few solutions, and in this video I want to show you one that is actually extremely simple and quite cheap. So the first thing that you want to do, obviously, because we have such a messy background, that we need to eliminate as much clutter as we can, or we can cover the clutter with maybe a piece of cloth. And here what I did is that I have some black cloth that I'm gonna close whenever I want to take videos. So right here I think I want to have this as my kind of shooting area, and I want to use this one as a background. But because I don't want to see all this massive mess that we have in our basement and in general and people having garages, let's say, then we're just gonna close with some cheap cloth that you can find on Amazon, on IKEA, or wherever you want. And I picked black, but you can pick even a different one. I'm gonna show you why I decided to pick black, just because I think it's gonna look okay just using 2 different lights. Now we need to decide where to position ourselves and where to position the camera. So obviously I'm gonna try to use as much space as I can to position the camera, and I think I'm gonna place it just right here, and then I put the chair basically in the middle. So here I have a table, there is the door of the garage, and I don't wanna use any of that. So I'm gonna try to place myself in the middle, and using again a 50mm lens, I'm gonna try to basically cut everything out and just use the black background as a background. Here I have my camera, and then I'm gonna try to position myself where I think it could look good. Yeah, I think in the middle this looks good. Obviously this light is way too powerful, so we have to diminish the power, and I'm gonna use the app to be faster and to be more precise, so I don't have to continuously stand up and move. Cool, so now I have full control on my app. That's it, and this should be fine, around 7%. And this is already quite good, and we have this infinite black background that I think it doesn't look too bad. Now I want to turn off all the other lights that I have here so that I have full control, just like that, and this is gonna make it even more dramatic. And that's it, exactly. Then I need to play around with the exposure so that I'm not overexposed, and I think looking at the screen right there, this should be fine. Obviously, this is super dramatic because everything is black around me. It can be already a good framing that you can use for some sort of videos, but maybe we can add more lights in the background to make it even more interesting. So if we keep it like this, this light is just at 3%. This is because I'm using a very low aperture in the lens, which is a f1.2, because I want to try to blur out the background as much as I can. But now maybe I can use the tube light that I've used before as well to then make a combination of colors in the background. So let's try to do that. I'm gonna use the first tube light on one side, and I'm gonna have it again yellow. So let's say here, like that. And then we're gonna use the second one maybe on the opposite side, just like that. I think now the light is entering the frame, so we're gonna make it a little bit higher, just like that. Now it shouldn't enter the frame anymore. Let's double check that everything looks fine, and that's it. This looks pretty epic already. Maybe this blue light is not powerful enough, so we can increase the intensity. Yeah, so that we see that it's touching on this side of my face and on the body, and we can do the same thing also on the other one if you want to have it stronger. Yeah. and this looks already pretty epic. Obviously, you can have all the combinations of colors that you want, but then another thing that you can do is that instead of having the two lights towards you, you can have them towards the background. So if I try to do that, you can have like that, and also like that. That's it. And again, this is a totally different combination than before. Maybe if the light is not powerful enough, you can increase it. Now we are at 5%, and again, you can change all the colors that you want. But let's say you don't like to have only tube lights in the background. Maybe we can add a plant. So let's try to do that. We're gonna substitute this yellow light with a plant. So we can have it quite high, I think. This should be fine. Obviously, you can decide whether you want to keep or remove the tube light, but I think I'm going to use it as a backlight towards me, and then I'm going to take a different light to have it underneath the plant. So we're just going to position the light underneath the plant. We're going to change the mode, and we're going to use it at 2700 Kelvin, just like that. So we have a warm color. Yeah, and I think it looks all right. Maybe if the plant is too tall and is not really balanced, as I see right now, maybe this one is too short and this one is too tall, I can remove the base of the plant and just keep it without anything in the bottom. And I think this looks better than before because the plant is not as prominent as it used to be. All right, and now you saw how we transformed a super messy background in a great studio for our content with some small adjustments. Just a piece of cloth, one light, and one plant. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. All right, this doesn't look that great, right? Well, in this video, we're gonna see together how you can transform your bedroom, something that look like this, into